Holy fucking shit, that's a lot of fucking people. Oh shit, was this mic on? Wow, sorry about that, guys. A lot of you looked pretty uncomfortable when I said that. But why? Was it something specific? Was it the fact that I'm intimidated by the number of people here? Or was it the fact that I swore while communicating that? I said a swear word, a bad word, a curse word, a cuss word. A bad word? Now, in this TED Talk, I want to do a few things. Look at what makes a word a swear word. Look at the history of swear words. Look at the possible pros and cons of swear words. And lastly, give you my opinion on the problems that I have with swear words. But anyway, I've always thought the idea of a swear word was kind of interesting. I mean, what makes a word taboo? It is interesting, and I doubt many of you will have the answer. I mean, if I say the F word, you'll all gasp and get super offended, but if I say puck, or luck, or duck, crickets. And nothing really changed. I mean, I made a slightly different movement with my mouth, a slightly different sound came out, mind you, only at the beginning part of the word, yet the two will evoke completely different reactions. How about this? Is this a swear word? I think most of you would say, no, that's not the way that that word is spelled, but I think you'd all probably feel different if I said it out loud. You knave! Again, crickets. But I doubt there would have been no reaction if I'd used that word a few centuries ago. I mean, this was a classic insult used in Shakespeare's plays way back in the day. In fact, if I had been giving this TED Talk 400 years ago, I might have started my speech like that just to evoke a reaction. But times have changed, we're industrialized, we're globalized, and knave is no longer an offensive way to refer to someone. And what about bloody? When playwright George Bernard Shaw used the word bloody in his play Pygmalion, the audience became so out of control, the play needed to be stopped. Now, no one would blink at the word bloody being used, with the exception of maybe a few Brits. How about this? You, right here in the front. You're a failure, nobody likes you, and you're going to die alone. Are these offensive words? And sorry, I wasn't being serious, of course, but I am doing this to illustrate a point that although that phrase was objectively more harmful than most singular swear words, not one word that I said there was a naughty word. Failure. Nobody. Alone. Now, I don't see anyone cringing when I say those swear words, and they certainly aren't swear words, but I can certainly use them in an offensive way. I just did, and sorry about that again, Gabe, but can't I use nearly any word in an offensive way? And also, can't I use traditional swear words in a way that is inoffensive? Now, in my opinion, you can. You know, I can say, this is the shit, in a way that tells my friend, wow, this song's really cool. But could I say that at church? Or at school? Or with my grandparents? Those aren't my real grandparents. I don't think so. So there's clearly something more to this. It's not just about the way the words are used, although maybe it is to a certain extent, but more importantly, it's about the words themselves. So I don't want to use all my time just using this TED Talk as an excuse to swear on the world stage. No. I want to get to the bottom of this. And firstly, I think it's important to look at different ways to classify swear words, because that's what makes them bad. It's the difference between them and normal swear words. And firstly, there are words that have to do with subjects we don't like talking about. You know, words where there are instances where there are other words we could use, but they're sort of taboo. You know, dick, shit, or ass. But all of these words are interchangeable with words that aren't bad, like Johnson, buttocks, or boopy. I mean, dick is even a nickname, no? Apparently a name given from parents to their kids if they want their kids to be bullied in middle school. I mean, look at little Dick here. Just look at how sad little Dick's name made him feel. But here's another theory. Perhaps these words are offensive because of the emotion that usually comes hand in hand with them. You know, words we use when we're really upset, or really angry, or even really happy. And perhaps these emotions scare us. And as kids, when we only see our parents using these words to convey the extremes of their personalities, extremes which scare them, we subconsciously push them away and decide not to use them. And by avoiding these words, we think we can avoid these feelings. But then again, there are different levels of swear words too. I mean, most people can get away with saying crap or ass or, I don't know, bloody hell, but there are plenty of words that I could never get away with. So there seems to be a very clear hierarchy. Because there are words which are meant to demean. These are words which are meant to insult on the basis of attributes, religion, skin color, gender, physical ability. These are words which are deeply entrenched in the context in which they were conceived. And are these words bad words? I think they are. And I think most people would agree with me when I say that these words can be the worst of the worst. These words are the few that people will refuse to say in any context. And I think that's pretty powerful. How much historical weight must a word carry for people to refuse to say it ever? In a society which values freedom of speech more than almost anything, we willingly censor ourselves. But then again, there are some words which originated as, the pinnacle of insults, which now have been taken back by the communities they were meant to insult. Take the word queer, for example. Queer was a once derogatory word towards members of the LGBTQ community, but now it's a word that community has claimed for itself as something that is empowering. I mean, the word queer literally put the Q in LGBTQ. And the fact that a word can go from being so offensive that only a select few people would even think of saying it, to being normalized in a global community, just goes to show that words in themselves are inherently not offensive. It's how people choose to perceive them. And it's as if over time, whole swaths of people suddenly realize, hey, why do I need to get offended by this? If I choose not to get offended, not only will that be good for me, but it will also mean that the person insulting me loses the power they have over me. Which leads me to ask, why can we not treat the words that offend us in the same way? Why can't we realize that we have a choice whether or not to be offended? Why can the LGBTQ community take back the word queer, but when your friend says, "Are you fucking kidding me?" too loud in the hallway, he gets sent to the principal's office, or when your nephew Timmy says shit, he gets sent to timeout? And yes, maybe there's not like a comparable way to take back the word shit, though it would be kind of weird if we started referring to shit in an empowering way, which, by the way, what would that even look like? Empowering shit. It's a weird concept, but still. Can we not learn the lesson in that words don't necessarily and always need to offend us? And you can see how people simply choose to be not offended by bad words by looking at how people deal with cursing in different cultures. Now, like most of you, I live in Barcelona, Spain, and let me tell you, when I first moved to Catalunya, coming from a very conservative American family when it comes to swearing, sorry Dad, it is the truth, the level and the amount of swearing that was everywhere was simply jarring. I mean, my little mind was being blown by the fact that everyone, everywhere, all the time was swearing. And it was kids, parents, grandparents, all swearing together as a happy family without batting an eye. I mean, shouts of joder, mierda, puta madre, gilipollas were all around me. I mean, I know people whose parents-in-law have called them an hijo de puta or son of a whore, and I have known coaches who have told 9-year-old children to, politely of course, cállate la puta boca or shut your fucking mouth. And living in Spain showed me how different cultural norms can be, because in Spain, swearing isn't quite as frowned upon as it is in the United States. I mean, swearing in public is literally illegal in the state of Virginia, which, by the way, come on, Virginia, you're much better than that. But this nonchalant attitude that the Spanish have towards swearing makes me wonder something very similar to what the word queer makes me wonder. That if the Spanish and Catalans can avoid getting worked up over swear words, why can't everyone? Why have we constructed a set of words which exclusively and necessarily offend us? I mean, there are plenty of cultures who either lack swear words or simply refuse to be offended by them. And maybe I'm crazy, but wouldn't it be a better world if people were spending their time and energy not being offended by words, but instead being offended by more bigger and serious problems? And another layer of this whole culture thing is that in Catalonia and in other cultures, there are translatable swear words which make no sense in the context of a different culture. So in Polish, you can shout cholera as a swear word comparable to shouting the F word, and here in Spain you can say hostia, which just means host in English, but not like the host of a party, it's more like the Holy Eucharist and the Catholic sacrament of communion, so I guess this would be the Catalan equivalent of saying Jesus Christ. So if you don't want to offend your Catholic friends, you can use the inoffensive substitute ostras, which just means oysters, and honestly doesn't make sense at all. And the Spanish also frequently shout, me cago en la leche, or I shit in milk, and this one is honestly just really weird. Like, what could possibly have been the origin of this expression? But It gets even weirder because in Quebec, Canada, a go-to cursing expression is chalice of tabernacle. Now, I know what you're all thinking. What in the actual fuck is a chalice of tabernacle? Seriously, Canada? These are your swear words? And simple swear words are also often applied differently across different cultures. So, motherfucker is a common expression in English swearing. However, in Bosnian, the F word gets paired with the father, not the mother. In Albanian, it's shared with your immediate family. In Turkish, the sentiment is spread specifically with your sons and daughters. And in Mandarin, and no, I'm not joking, their expression of fuck gets extended to your ancestors to the 8th generation. The 8th generation? Now, I'm not sure what circumstances warrant effing someone to their 8th generation of relatives. I'm going to be honest, it seems a little bit extreme, and I'm guessing it's got to be something pretty bad. But now that we've seen how cursing differs across different cultures, let me ask another question. Can bad words ever be good? And psychologists Timothy J. and Kristen Janswitz have studied this extensively, and they certainly think so. They recorded 10,000 instances of public swearing and rarely saw any negative consequences. They have, however, seen positive consequences. Never once in their studies did swearing lead to physical aggression. In fact, letting off some steam with swear words could actually be used as a substitute for physical aggression. Swearing can also be used to let out emotions that are being bottled up inside. I mean, I'm sure we've all had that experience where someone cuts us off in traffic or takes our parking spot, and we want to get out of the car and rip the head off of their shoulders, but then we let out a few swear words, and those boiling emotions get turned down to a simmer. And another thing to look at is how many times people can use swearing at someone to express an intimate friendship or love, demonstrating that the person they're speaking with is someone with whom they're extremely close or comfortable. Like, I wouldn't swear around someone I just met, but I very well might greet a close friend of mine by saying, "Oh my God, hey bitch." And that, among teenage today, is seen as an endearing hello. Yes, that is an expression of love. And other studies have shown that swearing can even increase our pain tolerance. Yeah, I'm not lying. Apparently, you can increase pain up to 40 seconds longer if you're swearing in the process. So, next time any of you are doing wall sits or have a broken bone or are sitting through an excessively long and boring TED Talk, you all know what to do. And one last way bad words can be good. Some experts have found what appears to be a correlation between verbal intelligence and frequent use of swearing. Now, I'm not saying that swearing will make you smarter per se, but I'm not saying that, if you know what I mean. And regardless, it's certainly an interesting claim to consider. So, what's the takeaway here? If bad words are just different sounds we make with our mouths, if swearing can be tolerated in some cultures more than others, if swearing expressions often don't even make logical sense, and if studies show that swearing can actually have many benefits, then I ask you, why do so many of us still get so offended by these so-called swear words? It seems to me that people often take offense based on how prepared and eager they are to be offended. I mean, other people hear those exact same words and don't get offended at all. Because offense is highly subjective, but perhaps as a society, we have grown to become too easily offended. I ask you, is it worth making your kid or friend or relative feel he or she is bad for having said a bad word? Do we want teachers sending your students to the principal's office for cursing? Do we really need to go out of our way to make people in public who we don't even know apologize for swearing? Now, I'm sure many of you parents out there are thinking, yes, it's totally okay to do those things. And to that, I would say, firstly, Dad, just stop. That last one has caused me enough undue embarrassment and trauma. But secondly, I would say, and maybe it's the fact that I'm younger, or have lived in a different culture, or hold different values, but I would say no. No. We don't and shouldn't need to do those things. Because my parents taught me from the time I was a little boy that there were certain words I just couldn't say. And I'm sure many of you can relate, but ask yourselves while I ask myself the following. If they hadn't done that, would I have grown up flinching at curse words, feeling uncomfortable with curse words, telling on my little 4th grade classmates for swearing? Yeah, I actually did that. And if I hadn't been doing those things, would I have really been harmed by it? If I had cursed more in my life, would I be a different person? Would I be a worse person? Or would I simply be a happier, healthier person? A person who doesn't burden himself with the perceived harm of words we have been convinced are harmful. Perhaps, if we could stop putting our energy into being offended by bad words, we could put more attention onto things that are truly offensive. But when it comes to words, when it comes to these so-called bad words that get so many people in such a frenzy, when it comes to this swearing stuff, I would like to leave you all with this final, very simple suggestion. Lighten up. Yep, that's all. Just lighten up. And this may seem a bit silly compared with some of the other wisdom you received from the other speakers tonight, but I sincerely believe that this is a lesson we can all benefit from learning and from practicing. So next time someone swears in front of you, don't let that get you upset, and don't let that sour your opinion of them. Because in the grand scheme of things, in a world full of real problems, a few so-called curse words really don't matter at all. And I don't know, perhaps I'm being unrealistic. Perhaps a society which is completely divorced from the idea that some words are bad and harmful is impossible. I suppose there will always be people in this world who do take offense at words. But maybe we can find a way to remove ourselves from that world. And perhaps we can live in a world where we look at words in the context they are said in, and not in the context we have convinced ourselves they must exclusively live in. Because that world that I just described, is a world that I'd fucking kill to live in. Thank you.